All right. Okay. You guys can unmute yourself, I think, right? I think, or it's not possible. Ilor, can you confirm that you can unmute yourself and speak? Oh, so I have to unmute you. Okay. Okay.
Can ask to be unmuted.
Okay. So can I pass this? So if these guys have questions, they just have to write in the chat box, right? So because when I was starting this session, I checked this box like that said mute participants when they first enter this chat or whatever session. So I guess now they just have to raise their hands if they have to speak. Okay. I guess we can just talk, and if they have questions, they can just type in the chat box. And if there's a question that I need to answer, you can just let me know. If I'm not looking at the chat. So without further ado, let's start this writing session. As you can see, this is our task. And I also want to look at the prompt as well. Let me see if I can see the prompt. Okay. Oops. All right, this is a different chat, different task. This has to be another pie chart. So I just have to get rid of all these pie charts since we're already done with these pie charts, right? This task we're not looking at today. This task we're looking at some other time. Band descriptors. Okay. All right. Rainfall. All right. So okay, I'll just have to find the task just to see the prompt. Sorry about that. All right, this is the prompt. So the chart below shows the average rainfall in the month March, June, and September in 5 cities in China. And I want to copy that into our task so that we can use it for our introduction as well. Right, so as usual, we're going to start with the Toshmat style introduction. Just look at the chat, just quickly. All right, so can you guys confirm that you guys can see my screen and hear my sound clearly? Just one last time. Okay, thank you. All right, just to make sure, that's all. All right, so like I said, the chart below shows the average rainfall, like how much rain the cities had maybe, right? So the amount of rainfall. I think there's not much we can do with this word rainfall, like as far as the paraphrasing is concerned. But yeah, we'll try to do our best. But the Toshmat style, first of all, would write something like, let me just see if I can make this bigger. All right. So Toshmat style would write something maybe slightly smaller so that I can see. He would say something like the bar chart, the given bar chart, maybe not even like chart graph. The given bar graph instead of shows, maybe something like illustrates. Instead of average, maybe he would say something like the typical rainfall. Rainfall, I would assume something like he would look it up and can we say typical amount of rain, typical amount of rain in 3 different months in 5 cities of China, maybe. Something like that, I guess. All right. And Lord, if you want to jump in and tell me your version of the introduction, that would be great.
I'd probably say compares.
Okay. The bar chart compares. 5 cities.
Yeah, we could do that. 5 cities in terms of their rainfall or average rainfall in 5 Chinese cities.
Do you want to say compares 5 cities or compares the average rainfall in 5 Chinese cities?
The average rainfall.
Yeah, okay, compares the average rainfall, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I guess there isn't much we can do with this average rainfall, probably. So.
Oh, it's very short and sweet, right? So the bar chart compares the average rainfall in 5 Chinese cities.
Yeah, we forgot the months.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Where would you insert months? Where would you say months? Like the end, at the end?
In 5 Chinese cities in 3 months in 5.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you can just say maybe in March, right?
Yeah.
June and September.
Yeah.
Or you want to add those like right after the rainfall, like rainfall in March, June, September in 5 cities, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, that would be better, I think.
So I is missing. Okay, that's good. All right. So my version would be something like, I had one, I think, prepared for this, but all right. So the bar chart, yeah, it's a comparative graph, so I would probably use compares too. But then I would use like 5 cities, 5 cities in China, or maybe 5 Chinese cities in terms of the average amount of rain they received, maybe. They receive, maybe, right? Like present simple, because I don't think we have timeline.
Yeah, we don't have time.
So they receive in March, June, and September. Maybe that would be okay as well. Slightly longer, but it's basically the same thing, right? All right. Now, the next thing is about the main, like picking the main features and like the planning, and also grouping, right? Deciding on organization of the data, right? I remember discussing it with you, Ildar. I think the first time we saw the chart, and we had some difference of opinions in terms of like how we would organize this specifically. Yeah. So if we can revisit this discussion somehow, and then maybe explain our train of thought to these students, I think that would be great too. So I think like as far as the overview is concerned, I think we first need to decide on grouping. So it's very important grouping for task one. So my original idea was to like maybe put Nanchang and Shanghai together because they were the two biggest, like in all 3 months, probably. Like, and then in the second group, I would just describe Chengdu, Beijing, and then this last city. I don't even know how to pronounce the name correctly. King or Roquang. I would just group them together. So that was my original thought, but after maybe giving it a second thought, and then I kind of thought maybe I'm gonna group Nanchang and Raking together, Rakang or whatever, because it felt like this was the highest and the lowest. So it kind of made sense to me to put them together and then describe Beijing, Shanghai, Chengdu together because they're more or less similar. Not maybe Beijing, but still. Maybe Shanghai and Chengdu together, and then maybe kind of add Beijing to the group as well. So I still think this is what I would do in the exam. Like if I were to write a task one report for this, I would probably put Nanchang and Roking together only because they are the highest and the lowest in terms of typical rainfall. So you let me know what you think, and if we think your version is better, then we'll just go for your version.
Okay, so what I was thinking, like what I noticed here was this. If you look at March, if you just look at March and June, you can see that they're like since this is a bar graph, we should be careful with using line graph language. But if you look at like March and June, there is clearly an increase in all cities. So in all cities, there is an increase between March and June. So that isn't helpful for us to group them. But if you look at the difference between June and September, you will see that in Beijing and Nanchang, the level of rainfall dropped, but in Shanghai and Chengdu, it increased. That's why what I was thinking was we could put Beijing and Nanchang together and Shanghai and Chengdu together. And the last city, since it's a clear outlier, we could write a separate...
one sentence maybe. Yeah.
One sentence paragraph. I mean, one sentence paragraphs are not really nice. It's not good, but I don't see any other way.
Yeah, I agree. I think I like your version better. I think it's easier to explain. The trick is there's no one correct way of grouping. When we have these charts. So as long as it's easy to explain, it's easy for the examiner to see the logic behind. And if we can put these two topic sentence, if we can construct a clear topic sentence, that's good enough. So when it comes to grouping, like I said, you just need to use your logic. And like Eldar did, I think it took Eldar maybe, I don't know, to explain at least a couple of minutes. So in the exam, you can spend or spare 2 or 3 minutes learning the chart and then analyzing the chart as, what we just did. And come up with grouping that would make sense. Not very complicated and not very, not too simple. It has to be somewhere in the middle. So we are saying we're going to do maybe 3 body paragraphs first we would group Nanchang and Beijing versus Beijing, right? So that would be our first paragraph, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, we would have Shanghai versus Chengdu, and body paragraph 3, we would have just one sentence about the last city. I don't even know how to spell it without looking at just looking at the spelling. So I think that's kind of it. Now, just to make things easier for us, can we try to write a topic sentence for each? The topic sentence is the first sentence for our body paragraphs. Like for Nanchang and Beijing, we would write something like, do we want to start with Nanchang and Beijing? What do you think? I think we should, right? Because since Nanchang has the highest kind of amount of rainfall among all cities, especially in June, I think it's worth pointing out right at the beginning of our body paragraphs. What do you think?
But I'm thinking about this last city right now. If you look at the trend, if you really look closely, it
goes with Nanchang, yeah.
Nanchang, but it's like so small in terms of the level that I'm thinking, can we add it to this paragraph or? So.
You can, like I said, you can and say it's the same. We can see the similar pattern there, but the numbers are really insignificant, right? Like we have some amount of rainfall in March, not even some, like very little amount of rainfall in March, but slightly more in June, and then again there's a drop in September. But I don't think it's really worth looking at. I mean, we would be fine having it, in a separate paragraph, in the last body paragraph, like just one sentence. I think it would be okay.
Yeah,
don't have to worry.
The problem that I'm having is, like, I was thinking, so this is gonna be really kind of a short sentence, almost no. I was going to say almost no rainfall. Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that. So you just say that, like a little rainfall.
But if you look at if you are gonna put it in a separate paragraph, saying it in a short way like this would be kind of a problem. So we'd have to somehow, artificially make it longer.
Let's see. If you want to include it in the first body paragraph, we can do that. Like, if you want to do that, it doesn't really matter.
Let's write then first Beijing and Nanchang, and we'll see how it fits.
Okay. So right now, I was asking about this, how we could have a topic sentence, like, so we would write something like, both Nanchang and Beijing had have the highest amount of rainfall in the months of June, right?
Yeah.
Followed by a drop in September, something like that, right?
Something like that, or we could say something like they had similar patterns for the 3 months.
Okay, Beijing experience a similar pattern of rainfall, maybe? Is that what you're saying?
With pattern, I think follow is the best word.
Yeah, okay. Beijing follow a similar pattern of rainfall, maybe similar pattern of rainfall in the given month, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And then we would explain something like, that is, can we use like that is, like with like this, that is both cities. Okay. My internet connection. Okay, both cities, for example, experience the highest amount of rainfall in June, followed by a small drop, slight drop, or a marginal drop in September. It's the plan, but we don't have to include this sentence like exactly. But it's just a kind of the reason, the justification why they are together. For Shanghai and Chengdu, what can we say with Shanghai and Chengdu? I think like September is the months for both cities where there's the highest amount of rainfall, right?
Yep. Yeah.
September is the months when with the highest amount of rainfall for Shanghai and Chengdu. Something like that.
So I have this one idea about this. So for the topic sentence here, I'm not sure, since we don't have the other months that are in between them. So do you think it would be okay if we said something like, rainfall, the amount of rainfall seems to increase towards this fall, towards autumn, something like that. Not exactly this.
Yeah. I guess we can say that. Yeah.
I'm having doubts because this we only have 3 months and
yeah. And they all each like the first months of the season, right? March, the first months of the season, June and September.
Yeah, that's why I was like, maybe that's what they wanted us to do when they gave this. Yeah, maybe that's what they wanted us to notice. Yes, they are giving like 1 month from each season.
Except the winter.
Because in winter it's not rain, it's snow. So.
Okay, so okay, well, all right. So I think we can move on. And we have the introduction, so we can look at the overview now. Like overall, our overview should reflect our grouping. So it's something to take away from today's lesson when you're dealing with such complex charts. And I have to admit, this is one of those difficult charts, tough charts for task 1. To be honest, like it's not like we're having fun here. If I had this in the exam, I would really struggle, and I would have problems, like grouping this, being able to see the pattern and etc. And there's just not one obvious way of grouping here. That's one of the reasons. So, but as soon as you decide on the grouping, like this organization, and your overview should somehow reflect. So you need to write a sentence or two that would again explain your justification, your logic for grouping. So in our case, we can also look at highest and lowest for the overview. It doesn't always have to be about grouping, but at least one aspect, one sentence has to cover that. So we could have like 2 different features, 2 different sentences, right? One could be about highest and lowest. One could be about this pattern, like we can see 2 different patterns where in some cities, June is the month with the highest rainfall, and in some cities, it's the month of September. But in all cities, I think March, right, is the months where it's rained the least, or something like that. So something similar along those lines, or maybe something what you said about this, like cities experiencing more rainfall. Either some cities are experiencing more rainfall in summer, some are experiencing more rainfall toward the autumn or in fall, something like that, maybe, right?
Yeah.
But all cities have the least amount of rainfall in spring. So that, I think that would be our, and then you could say Nanchang was the the city. Nanchang is the city. If you look at Nanchang, it's the only city where they get more rain in March than in September. Right? So overall, they get the highest amount of rainfall, and plus they get more rain in March than in September. Okay. Something like that, no? All right, let's see if we can maybe write at least one sentence, something like, overall, it's always safe to write something like, it's clear that some cities experience the highest. Can we change the word rainfall? Can we, like, highest amount of rain or highest amount of rainfall? When we say experience, I think rain is also okay, right?
I think we could say level of rainfall, probably.
Highest level of rainfall, okay? What about the word precipitation? Can we use that, like?
I don't think so, because precipitation would mean anything that falls from the sky. Right?
I know. Well, there's already rain or snow. I think it would be okay, but I'm not, planning on using it. But still, I don't know. Yeah. I think for some candidates to show off that they know this word, I think that would be fine.
I don't know, like.
All right. So overall, it's clear that some cities experience the highest level of rainfall in June, whereas others in September, right? Something like that.
Yeah, and so we could actually write down the city names in brackets. When you say some cities in brackets.
Okay. Maybe even like be more specific and say, maybe you can just name them, like which city. So we have the highest amount of rainfall. So Nanchang, right? And Beijing.
Yeah.
So maybe just do that, like, because we already said like 5 Chinese cities, so now it's okay to be specific. It's clear that Nanchang and Beijing experience the highest level of rainfall in June, whereas Shanghai and Chengdu in September. It's clear that Nanchang and Beijing experience the highest level of rainfall in June, whereas Shanghai and Chengdu in September. And that I also want to add, like, there's one sentence just about like the city of, how do you spell that? Like Ruoqiang. Okay. Ruoqiang have the least amount of rainfall.
Okay.
Maybe something.
What if it say the city is a clear outlier with the least rainfall, with almost zero rainfall, or almost no rainfall.
Okay, clear outlier. Are you okay using the word outlier here?
Yeah, it's okay. Yes.
Okay, the Rokwang is the clear outlier city.
No, it's just outlier.
Okay, outlier with
almost no rainfall.
Maybe with little rainfall, with the least. Okay, with almost no rainfall. Okay, almost no rainfall in all the given months, right? Because it may get all the rain like in winter. We don't know.
Yeah.
All right. I think it is okay. I like the overview.
Yeah, I also like this. I really like this.
Yeah. Well, something at least we have something to agree on, right? For it's one of the first times, I think. Overall, split in Nanchang and Beijing experienced the highest level of rainfall in June, whereas Shanghai and Chengdu in September, and then Urukang is a clear outlier with almost no rainfall in all given months. All right, okay. So we can move on now to our first detailed paragraph, or first body paragraph. We had the sentence, but I don't know, we may not like it. Both Nanchang and Beijing follow a similar pattern of rainfall in the given months. That is, both cities experienced the highest amount of rainfall in June, followed by a marginal drop in September. Maybe you want to drop the second part and just stick with the first sentence, right? Something like that. So we would just copy the first part of the sentence. Both Nanchang and Beijing follow a similar pattern of rainfall in the given months, right? And then, like, we would start with the beginning. We would start with something like in March, right? Oh, wait a second. There's a slight difference between Beijing and Nanchang in terms of March. But it's the same pattern, but like in March, I think the word pattern is still okay. But like I said, Nanchang was the only city that would receive more rain in March than in September, right? So is it worth mentioning somewhere? I don't know.
I think if we can find the right structure, we can mention it somehow with a non-identifying relative clause. But I'm not sure if you're going to talk about two cities at the same time. I don't know. Might be a little bit too difficult.
What do you think is the best way in this case, like for students, to talk about Nanchang like separately first, just describe each month, and then like move on to Beijing, or talk about each month with both cities, like March detail for Beijing, March detail for Nanchang? What do you think? Like, which one do you think easier for students?
I think it would be easier to just talk about both of them at the same time. Yeah.
All right, so let me look at the chat. Why is it Toshmat style? Okay. Toshmat style is basically what we have as someone an average Uzbek candidate would write. So it's easier for us to paraphrase, and it would give us some ideas. It's always better to start with Toshmat style because, like I said, the pressure is off. It's not like my own introduction, in my head at least. So I'm just writing it in Toshmat style, and to also show you guys that some of you might identify with Toshmat. That means you find his writing like more relevant to your own style. Okay, so also we have some questions. Let me see if we can get some. Sorting according to the months is a good idea. March, June, September, the first months of spring, summer, autumn. Okay, so I mentioned that. June is the main month of rainfall in total, while the figure of Nanchang is by far the highest. Okay, not bad. Oh, I like that. This guy, dry city. I like that. Like, instead of keep using like for example almost, so we could actually fix it. And I want to steal this. Instead of saying I also like your version, but let me see if I can, like, is the driest city overall or something, like, no, not overall, but comparatively the driest city. Is the driest city with almost no rain. So
yeah,
something like that. I don't know. Yeah, it kind of works. I like it. Or at least we need to use this at least in one of the body paragraphs somewhere when we're going to talk about this city. So I really like the idea dry. The not using the word rainfall over and over. That's good. So getting back to our main point, the question was, what is better? Is it better to describe Nanchang first, like all 3 months, and then move on to Beijing? Sometimes they do that. Sometimes they mix it up, and sometimes they like talk about March here, March there, and then with this, like increase. I think when you mix two cities, your job gets extra difficult, but you can get more credit for that.
More credit, and you can use a little bit more complex grammar.
Yeah. So the answer is it's up to the candidates, like, and what their level is like. So if your level is not really, if you're not really sure if you can handle this, then it's okay to describe Nanchang first and then move on to Beijing. I mean, I don't think there's any, particular reason not to do that. All right, but let's see. Something like, we would start with the number 150, and I just noticed that it's in actually millimeters, right? So 150 millimeters of rainfall. Is that, okay, so that's for the month, right? So for March, Nanchang received 150 millimeters of rainfall. That is like, and then you would compare that, or you could just say it almost doubles. It almost doubles in June, right?
Yeah.
Before dropping noticeably in September to well under 100.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, and then say similarly and talk about this one.
Yeah. I want to do that first, and just to see, and then if we have something better, we can always change it, right?
Yeah.
So now, when you're writing, it's always, it's a good idea to think about subjects. Like, you want to use different parts of speech as subjects. For example, in the first sentence, we use cities as subjects, like both Nanchang and Beijing follow a similar pattern of rainfall in the given months. So, for example, now you might say with like the amount of rainfall for March in Nanchang is, can we say is in this case, or do we have any other verb? Like, the amount of rainfall for March in Nanchang
seems to be.
No, I don't think I would use seems to be, like, because it's already like 150. It's clearly seen. Is all right. So just put like is for now. Is 150. I was like thinking about, can I use the word, like, for example, I can definitely not use the word account for, but can I say amount to? Amount to is good, but I already used the word amount, so I would probably say something like a rainfall for March. Maybe I could do that. Like, so the average, maybe I can say the average rainfall for March in Nanchang is, so instead of is, you can say amounts to 150 millimeters, right? So that would work. And then in the next sentence, you can actually use, for example, the word average as a verb. So I'll show you how to do that too. Like the average rainfall for March in Nanchang amounts to the average rainfall for March in Nanchang amounts to 150 millimeters. Or like, can we put like Nanchang at the beginning of the sentence at least, like something like looking at the figures, or like in Nanchang, the average rainfall in March amounts to like, because in the next sentence we don't have to keep repeating the city name.
Yeah, that is, I think, a good idea.
So like something like in Nanchang. So it doesn't really change the subject of the sentence. It's just it's okay. Nanchang, the average rainfall for March amounts to 150 millimeters. And it doubles, right? You can say it nearly doubles for the months of June. So what is the rainfall amount for the months of June? So it's about that. So maybe when you say doubles, you don't even really have to say the exact like figure, I think, right?
Yeah.
This, however, is followed by a dramatic maybe drop. It dropped like from, I don't know, something like, if we say it's like 290 to 90, so like drop off 200 millimeters, like about 200 millimeters, like we can say a dramatic drop off. I want to get back to this preposition off. About 200 millimeters, reaching, and now you can say reaching well under, or maybe reaching about, or reaching nearly 90 millimeters in September. Like, or maybe declining too. Yeah. Because reaching, we would use probably with like going up. Declining to nearly 90 millimeters in September. If that makes sense. So let's just go over what we just did. So in Nanchang, the average rainfall for March amounts to or you can say, because this is the first month in the given chart, you can actually start with starts at, right? So it's a good phrase as well. So you can just say starts at 150 millimeters. And it nearly doubles for the month of June, for the months of June. This, however, is followed by a dramatic drop off about. So I'm using off because it's referring to the difference, not the final level. It's the difference. It's because it's coming down from 290 to 90. So it's about 200 millimeters of difference. So there's a dramatic drop off 200 millimeters, declining, and then you can use this complex grammar to show declining to nearly 90 millimeters in September. So I think it's okay. And then we can say similarly, right? Similarly, Beijing, for example, how much? So what is the how would we now phrase this? Because the more I look at it, these figures for Nanchang and Beijing, although they follow a similar pattern, it's just they're kind of opposite. Like Nanchang is the highest almost in all months, and Beijing is somewhere in the lowest range. So I'm not sure if I can use the word similarly here because of that.
So yeah, you can say similarly, you know, and then you can say it kind of rises. Yeah.
Okay, so what would be the subject? Like how we would state? So we'd have to say something like in March, like despite getting no rain, but that's not similarity. So similarity is that there's a rise from March to June, right? So we need to kind of emphasize that.
Okay. Beijing sees a noticeable rise between the months of March and June.
Okay, I like that. I like that. Noticeable rise in rainfall, right?
Yeah.
Between March. So we can put the figures in if you want. And June, right?
In brackets.
Maybe you want to put like a rise, a noticeable rise, like from what? Like from 10, maybe 10 millimeters, about 10 millimeters to 70, right? So so we can actually add that, like from 10 millimeters to from maybe like approximately to 70 millimeters, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then this was also followed. I cannot really say followed again. I cannot use the same thing, but there was also a drop. To 50 millimeters of rainfall in September. Not really sure if we can use the word also here, but I was like trying to again make a comparison to Nanchang. So there was also a drop too, but I think in this context, right after the sentence, we also I don't think we need the word also. But what kind of drop? Can we say, again, noticeable, but it's not that noticeable, right?
Yeah.
There was a marginal drop, maybe. Drop to 50 millimeters of rainfall in September. Maybe use the word like there was then a marginal drop. Or afterwards there was a marginal drop. Or subsequently there was a marginal drop. Which like I need some sort of a connector here.
Okay.
I don't know. Subsequently, maybe. Subsequently, there was a drop. There was a marginal drop to 50 millimeters of rainfall in September.
It is like you wrote it in past, so it should be present.
Oh, okay. So I keep doing that, right? So how many words do we have here? About 80 words, so that's okay. So with our overview, it's about 120 words. If we had the introduction, say mine was longer, so 21, 140. So we just need one more body paragraph, and that's about it, right?
Yep.
Okay. For the second body paragraph, so we would use something like Shanghai and Chengdu. September is the month with the highest amount of rainfall for Shanghai and Chengdu. So maybe by contrast or something like that. how would we start the second body paragraph? So maybe you want to say something like, we want to remind the examiner that we understand, so we can say something like, while the amount of rainfall rises, right? From June to September. Oh, I'm sorry, not rises, but drops, right? From June to September for the cities discussed above, or for the cities mentioned above? For the cities mentioned, yeah, for the cities mentioned above. We don't have to repeat the name. We can see the opposite trend for Chengdu and Shanghai. What do you think about this? If you don't like it, you can always change it. While the amount of rainfall drops from June to September for the cities mentioned above, we can see the opposite trend for Chengdu and Shanghai.
Okay, so the problem is, after you say this, you will still have to start with March. So there is a kind of a loss of connection there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was thinking yeah, we could simply start by, we can just say with regard to Shanghai and Chengdu.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's not bad. And then just describe both, like, for March.
Yeah.
Shanghai and Chengdu. Okay. Okay. What else I can notice is that, like, from March to June, there's a huge gap, right? And then between June and September, and there isn't really, it's like the gap is small for both cities. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So,
well, or we can do these two sentences where we say, like Beijing and Nanchang, Shanghai and Chengdu increase like between March and June. However, between June and September, like something like that.
That's a little confusing, because when you say like, it's like we're looking at a similarity, but that similarity isn't really worth mentioning. Like, you're talking about from March to June, right? Okay, so let's try your simpler version regarding Shanghai and Chengdu. So we can do that, like, regarding Shanghai and Chengdu. What is the continuation regarding of Shanghai and Chengdu? Cities, or the amount of rainfall. Okay, so we can say the amount of rainfall fall in March. The amount of rainfall, like, experienced. The amount of rainfall increases from spring to summer, followed by so the amount of rainfall, there's something we can, I think, like, this actually, so regarding Shanghai and Chengdu, so we can say the amount of rainfall increases, maybe we can say from not spring, from spring to summer, but from spring to fall, right? The autumn.
Yeah, like the statement that I said in the beginning, like it increases towards fall. Yeah.
From spring to fall, but this increase, but the rise in summer, like the rise from March to June is significantly or relatively higher than that of, higher than, so that of June to September. We need to fix the grammar maybe, or restructure the sentence if necessary, but I think something like that, like regarding Shanghai and Chengdu, the amount of rainfall increases from spring to autumn. Like maybe, or you can say the overall, like in total, the amount of rainfall keeps increasing.
What if we say this? The amount of rainfall increases between the 3 months, but at different degrees.
It's a little less clear because I wanted to say, like, maybe you can say like increases toward June and September, but this rise is relatively more noticeable in the former or something, or the former, I don't know, something like that, But this is what bugs me about IELTS, because you have to kind of come up with these expressions within 20 minutes, like all the while of planning, grouping, and managing your word count, but still thinking about these clever, wordplay, not even wordplay, but or at least like academic style of writing. I don't really like this. This seems really worthy to me, to be honest.
Especially for a topic sentence.
So what I can do is maybe I can copy it to Grammarly and then also show our students that they can take, use Grammarly to their advantage. So something like that. See if can it work with can it work with short text? I don't think so, right? So it just says it's a worthy sentence. I said it, Grammarly. I know that it's a worthy sentence. Regarding Shanghai, the amount of rainfall increases from the average rainfall. So maybe the average rainfall. The average rainfall increases from spring to autumn, but this rise from March to June is relatively higher than that of June to September. Even though it says no issues found, I just, I still don't like it. But let's just keep it this way for now, and then we can always come back and
wait.
Sure. Yeah. I'm here. Not going anywhere.
Do we have to say then that of June to September? Because
I wanted to compare two rises, because that's what I'm referring to. We have two rises from. Or maybe we should mention that, like, we have from March to June and then June to September. So what do you think was better?
Okay, what if we say the average rainfall increases between the 3 months?
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. I think I know where you're going. Between the 3 months, okay.
Months. but the rise from March to
June is but the rise but the rise from March to June is relatively higher.
Relatively, I think, kind of weak here, maybe
significantly higher.
Significantly higher, yes.
And that's it, right? Just leave it here.
Yeah.
Regarding Shanghai and Chengdu, the average rainfall increases from. Okay, so now then we have to get rid of from. Increase between the 3 months. Can we say increases between the 3 months? It's like, do you think between is the right preposition?
That's what's bugging me too.
I don't really like that between. Throughout is probably a better preposition. But throughout is also slightly different meaning though. Yeah, text is too short. So, all right. I think between may not be the most accurate preposition. I feel like it's throughout or something similar to that. Throughout the 3 months, over the 3 months, maybe over the 3 months, right?
But over the 3 months would sound like it's like March, April, and May.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like back to back 3 months. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Throughout the period, or the course throughout the period, not throughout the period, still, right? Why not throughout the period or average rainfall increases? Okay, why not just say from March to September?
Yeah.
And now we can say, but the rise from March to June is significantly higher, right?
Yep.
Like we can say the average rainfall continually increases, right? From March to September, but the rise from March to June is significantly higher. I think it's okay.
Okay, so yeah, the economist in me disagrees, but okay.
Okay, I don't really care about the economist in you. I'm okay dealing with the IELTS instructor in you. Regarding Shanghai, change the average rainfall continually increase from March to September, but the rise from March to June is significantly higher. All right. Okay, moving on. There were some comments last time about the amount, regarding the amount that we're taking to write this, and someone saying, you guys took like 1 hour to write. But because we're making it educational, that's the reason why, we're taking it so long. I mean, if you had to write it in 20 minutes, we would, but we wouldn't really have the time to explain our thoughts. We would just be writing, and you would just see some text or us typing and no discussion. There would be no time for discussions, and there would be no explanations. We would probably get the same, level, maybe slightly lower in terms of quality and style. Maybe fewer grammatical ranges, maybe not the best word choices, but it would still be enough to get 7.5 in writing. So the reason we're taking a longer time is that we need to discuss, we need to kind of show how our, brains work when we're writing this together. Not really specifically together, but we're doing it together, again, just for the sake of arguments and discussions, and like how you can follow our chain of thought with us, and then also experience similar, I would say, similar levels of excitement when we get it right, and similar levels of frustration when we don't, is what I'm trying to say. So don't worry about the amount of time that we're taking. It's all educational. It's all good. As long as you're learning something from it, I think we're fine. So we just wrote the first sentence of the second body pattern, so we have a long way to go to finish this. So regarding Shanghai and Chengdu, the average rainfall continued to increase from March to September, but the rise from March to June is significantly higher. All right, so I'm just gonna have to say goodbye to my topic sentence. I think we can insert the details right here, like from like how we would do that though, from March. So maybe now we want to try describing both cities together, like Shanghai and Chengdu, like as opposed to, like using as opposed to, right?
Yes,
also, maybe you can say also something we can say the amount of rainfall in Shanghai is slightly higher, right, compared to Chengdu.
Yeah.
So now, can we change? For example, we had Nanchang and Beijing as the subject. For example, the next subject was the average rainfall. The next subject was this. It's a passive voice. This rise, maybe, or this. The next subject was Beijing, again, city. The next subject was there is, inversion. It's a very simple inversion. Yeah, okay, that's it. So Shanghai and Chengdu, the average rainfall. The next, so in this one, we start with the average rainfall again as the our subject. Now, so we need to kind of use a different structure. What would you suggest here to start the sentence? We would start with I'm going to tell you Shanghai March, and then compare that to Chengdu March. If that makes sense. Oops.
Yeah.
This from March to June is significantly higher. Okay, so why not just start with like Shanghai? Averages. Now I'm using average as a verb, so that's good. Averages. Average is about how much rainfall. How many millimeters of rainfall? Shanghai experienced about 75, I would say.
Yeah, something like that.
75 millimeters of rainfall in March compared to only about 25, right?
It's even 20, I think. It's not. It's definitely not 25.
Okay, only about 20 millimeters. Only 20 millimeters. In Chengdu. Is that the word? So Shanghai averages about 75 millimeters of rainfall in March compared to only about 20 millimeters in Chengdu, right? I think.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels to me like this should be off Chengdu.
No, that's why I was like, it didn't really speak. My mind was kind of, blanking. Yeah, I think it is, because in didn't really sound okay to me. That's why I was like waiting for your confirmation. Shanghai averages about 7 in March compared to only about of Chengdu. Yeah. Chengdu sounds off Chengdu sounds better. So afterwards, maybe so we can say both cities. So we can say both cities experience So both cities experience sharp increase. Two, I would say now we can use respectively 250 and 100, right? 250, 50 millimeters and 100 millimeters. Can we say respectively and still refer to the first sentence? Would it be okay? Like, because I used Shanghai as the first in my first, like my former, and Chengdu as the latter. So like, can I say afterwards both cities experience? Because I already put like both cities. So so I cannot really repeat the city names again.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Would it still be clear, like if I say respectively here? Both cities experience a sharp increase to 150 and 100 millimeters respectively.
Yes.
Would it still be clear?
Yeah. Can we continue this sentence instead of full stop?
Yeah. Something like,
because we did not. I don't see any kind of relative clause.
Public sense. Yeah. Relative. Okay. What kind of relative clause can we like add here?
Yeah.
Do we not have a relative clause anywhere?
We don't have non-identifying.
Okay. All right. Okay. Non-identifying requires a comma.
Yeah.
Okay.
What
and
if
then
we
we
just
have,
say which
there was a
further?
Which towards both cities experience a sharp increase to 150 and 100 millimeters respectively. Which rows can we use? Which, like, because that's what the amount of rainfall again, right? So we have 150 millimeters and 100 millimeters both rows, right?
Yeah.
Like, which rows further?
2 and just gives the numbers.
Maybe not really give a number. Well, for Chengdu we can use a number because there's a difference. But with like Shanghai, it's about like 155. I don't know. 155.
Yeah.
Afterwards, both cities experienced a sharp increase to 150 millimeters and 100 millimeters, respectively. Let me see something. I'm kind of stuck here. I like the idea of having a relative clause, but we need to maybe restructure it. Like afterwards, both cities experience a sharp increase to 150 and 100 millimeters respectively.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe something like which is followed by a slightly less increase, right? Something like that. Like, can we still say which is followed by? Would it qualify as a non-defining relative clause?
Yeah.
For you? Maybe something like afterwards, both cities see a sharp increase to 150, 100 millimeters respective, which is followed by a relatively less dramatic relatively less dramatic increase, relatively less dramatic rise, which is followed by a relatively less dramatic rise. Afterwards, both cities experience a sharp increase. Not sure. I'm not really happy with this, which is followed by a relatively.
Let's just write a separate sentence.
Okay. Let me see. Regarding the rainfall, continue increase from March to February, but the rise from March to June is significantly higher. Can we use here? Can we change but to like with and say with the rise from March to June being significantly higher? Would it be okay, or like, yeah, it's grammatically okay, but the meaning, like, do you think the meaning maybe is more like is more clearly like conveyed?
Yeah, it's definitely not less clear than this one. So.
Right. So with the rise from March to June being significantly higher, Shanghai average is about. Okay. Can you use, for example, in task one, like I wouldn't really care. But for example, Shanghai averages about 75 millimeters of rainfall in March compared to. But for example, may not really work here in this particular sentence. But I need a connector of some sort. Maybe like in fact. Shanghai averages about 75 millimeters of rainfall in March compared to only about In fact, doesn't work because now I'm comparing Shanghai and Chengdu. In the previous sentence, we kind of grouped them together, like we put them together. Maybe we can say something like, however, the figures for Shanghai were comparatively higher. Were comparatively higher than those for Chengdu. We have now like two topic sentences, and then you can say, in fact, Shanghai averages about 75 millimeters of rainfall in March compared to only about 20 millimeters of Chengdu, right? Afterwards, both cities experienced a sharp increase on the respectively. Maybe then you can say, which is then followed by a further increase. But not as sharp as the previous. Again, might be worthy, but let me see. Afterwards, both cities experience a sharp increase, which is then followed by a further increase, but not as sharp as the previous one. What do you think? Okay. Let's see. Let me check this one with Grammarly and see what he has to say, or she has to say. Okay. Two-wordy sentence, two-word choice mistakes. Doesn't like the word being.
Maybe
it might think it's like
human being, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, which is then a further increase, which is then followed by a further. Oh, we have then and further, maybe just followed by a further increase. Still.
Okay.
try making it which are.
Yeah, because I see two numbers, right?
Yeah.
Which are followed, because which are like which is. Afterwards, both cities experience.
Okay. It's telling you to just remove. Just remove.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say. What if we just get rid of it because it's the same meaning? Follow, and it's like it's faulty tense sequence. Now it just added a faulty tense sequence to me. Both cities experience, followed by a further increase, but not as sharp as the previous one.
Well, what if we just say like this, followed by a less dramatic increase? I think you were writing like this before, yeah?
Yeah. Followed by a less dramatic increase in September.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, and we should use another word.
It's just thinking like saying you're using a wrong tense because we have followed by, so that's why I keep using this like past tense, just to make sense. Like even in my head, like using present doesn't really make sense because this chart still showing past tense. It's like it's not like a usual thing. It's like the statistics are coming from a certain year, even though it's not really specified. So I don't know. Now the only thing is being, but you're right. It's probably thinking about like human being, being as a noun, not verb. What did you want to say?
Okay.
You like better?
The last sentence has two increases, so we need to, use a synonym for one of them.
Oh, yeah, okay, no problem. Growth, dramatic growth, less dramatic growth. But if you use growth, I think like we can use, usually growth is uncountable, so less dramatic growth in September. All right. Yeah, I'm happy with it. We can try this with the previous paragraph as well. Ooh, that's what I was afraid of. So both Nanchang and Beijing follow a similar pattern of rainfall. In Nanchang, the average rainfall for March amounts to, it nearly doubles. Maybe you don't need it, like.
Okay.
And nearly doubles.
Here we can actually use which, which nearly doubles.
Okay. Can we say like which nearly doubles for the months of June, right? This, however, is followed by a dramatic drop of about 100. Doesn't like the word. It doesn't like the word rainfall for some reason. Both Nanchang and Beijing. Maybe since we have similar, we don't need the word both. Like Nanchang and Beijing follow a similar pattern of rainfall.
Yeah.
Right? Because we need these as two separate cities, not like group them together, like both cities follow a similar pattern. So these two cities follow a similar pattern makes more sense, yeah. So by just removing both, we solve this similar pattern problem as well. In Nanchang, the average rainfall amounts to, which nearly doubles for the months. Now the only problem is this, like this, however, is followed by a dramatic. Or maybe like it, however, is followed by, but this is probably better, right?
Yeah, it's definitely better.
Okay. I think it's okay. We fixed a very serious problem with both. It's okay. All right. It's okay. Let's try the overview as well, just to see what it would say. Maybe with conclusion, with the introduction together. So this is what you can do as well. This is a free version of Grammarly, and you can, just type your text and see if you need some improvements. All right, so the bar chart compares 5 cities overall. It's clear that Nanjing and Beijing experience the highest level of rainfall. Highest levels of?
Yeah.
Levels of rainfall. Doesn't really matter still. One punctuation compound complex says virtuous unclear sentence. Just whereas. Okay.
It's asking you to put a comma there.
Yeah. So I did. And that. Oh. Okay. And that Rukong is the clear outlier with almost no rainfall. It doesn't like the word rainfall for some reason.
Try separating it.
Okay. Now the wordy sentence. Okay. So we can just do that. Oh, damn. Okay. Something like that. I don't know. Hold on. Now it says, okay, so you need comma, amount of rain. Yeah. I don't know how we missed it. And rainfall, now it's saying, no. I'm sorry, this was actually the rainfall. So there's clearly something wrong. So we can put also here, not and. Okay, I think it's okay. It's better, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we missed that. Like, we need to say something about the sentence, right? Somewhere.
I don't. I am feeling like the information that we gave in the overall is enough about this last city.
Also, Rikang is clear. This is the clear outline with almost no rainfall in all the elements. Do you think?
Yeah, like.
All right. So usually it's a good idea to separate the overview from your introduction, but it doesn't really matter.
Like usually, what I think is maybe I am wrong in doing this, but what I think while I'm writing task 1 is I think outside IELTS. What if I am the person that is receiving this report? Yeah.
Yeah.
What if I told my, let's say, employee to write a report like this, and I'm receiving this?
How clear it would be? Yeah.
And
yeah,
right here, I wouldn't need any other information about this last city.
Yeah, so, you're right. You may be right. At least I think we did a good job with this graph. This was a really complex graph, to be honest. So what we learned is when you have such complex bar chart or any other graph for that matter, and if you cannot really think of find a way of grouping this data, it's like always look for some patterns. And as Eldor pointed out, from March to June, almost every city, well, including Rukang, so every single city experienced a rise. But the differences came with September. So as we move towards September, there was a drop in Beijing and Nanchang, but a rise in Shanghai and Chengdu. So that was the difference that we tried to cling on to. We tried to kind of like show to the examiner, right? So I thought this was a very clever way of grouping, like putting Beijing and Nanchang together. But this all goes out the window, meaning like it becomes like meaningless if you don't know how to show this to the examiner with your topic sentence or with your overview. Like if you cannot show this, that there was the logic, there is a good chance that the examiner might miss it, like might not really see why you put these cities together, or might intentionally oversee it, like saying they know, but they put it to chance. Like they might say, well, probably they just found it like by chance, but he couldn't really still see the logic. So you should always try to, as soon as you group this in a particular way, it doesn't really matter which way, but as soon as you have a grouping, some sort of grouping, make sure to show this, that you did it like, what do you say, like knowingly, or you did it like consciously in the overview as well as in the topic sense. Like try to keep coming back to this point, like saying, I grouped this in such way because of this reason or whatever, right? Like, yeah. Elori, do you have anything else to say additional? If not, then we can move on to some questions.
Yep. No, I said yep, but no, you kind of summed it up perfectly. So.
Yeah, thank you. So we can move on to questions then. We have a question from Jalal Brazak, who says, maybe it's better to print this task out before the video chat, so then no need to scroll up and down during the session. And I think it's easy to find different figures for the paper. Okay, we can do that. Because I'm looking at, because I'm doing this online session, I'm taking it, as I'm trying to pretend or set the conditions so that I'm, just like I'm doing the CDI version of the test. So I don't have the printout materials beforehand. So I think it's okay. Like I don't really mind scrolling up and down, and I don't think I think students need to see where my eyes are looking at, like where I'm looking at. I think if I'm just looking at the printout, then they wouldn't see me, and they wouldn't really understand what I'm trying to do, right? Don't you agree, Eldor? I think they need to see where we're, what we're doing, basically.
Yeah.
By scrolling up and down, we students know that we're looking at the figures, and they would know that it's actually important to look back at the figures every now and then.
Yes, right? I agree with that. Yes. Yeah.
The word count is about 270 words. 207 words. Which I think is a little over the limit. Like, there is no upper limit, but there is a suggested limit of the maximum number of words for task 2. I think it's about 200. Right?
Yeah.
Come on, these guys are less. It's less dramatic, sure, for sure. There's just a typo, spelling typo, and everyone is like going crazy over this one word. Because clearly, I think you guys heard us say dramatic over and over. Like we said, dramatic. It was just a spelling mistake. The word limit 207. Like I said, it's a little over the limit. It would be fine if we have if we have like less than 200 words, but there's not much we can do, right? I think you convert the bar chart to a line graph. We didn't really convert it to a line graph, but every line graph can be converted to a bar chart and the other way around. So if you can do that, like for IELTS, for the IELTS test, like there is no really, that doesn't really matter how the information is presented to you in what form, like in bar charts or line graphs. Usually, can you like clearly convert this to a line graph? Would it not be any problems? There would be some problems, maybe. I don't think there is, though, right? Because even though I mentioned this was a comparative graph, I now see that it's actually there's trend. There's an upward trend, downward trend. So I think we're all right there. Don't you think, Eldor? What do you think? Like
again, there is a conflict between Eldor's IELTS instructor and Eldor's economist.
Mm-hmm.
So since we don't have information about the months in between, April, May, July, and August,
so a line graph may not be the most appropriate.
Yeah. So in this kind of situations, my recommendations would be you can use increase and decrease, the words increase and decrease, but you should be careful when you are using words like dramatic, sharp, like I think in this case we use them more or less correctly. But if you have a longer period in between, for example, if you have 2010 and 2020, yeah, and then if you don't have information about 11, 12, 13, and 19, I would, you can still talk about overall like increase and decrease, but
you wouldn't, you would be sure about,
I'd be careful with the words like sharp, dramatic, steep, and words like that, because you don't know what happened in the middle, So.
Right, yeah. Okay, but overall, I think converting bar chart into a line graph, or the vice versa, or converting table, or like what we did in the last lesson, we converted the information given in a pie chart into a table, and it helps us, to see the pattern more clearly. So it's okay, you can do that. What band score would you give this essay? It's up to you guys. Like, I think it's still about 7.5 or 8. I think we spent a lot of time on choosing our words correctly, and we actually checked the grammar with Grammarly and made some changes. So I would say it's about 8. Yeah. Like every essay that we've been producing for this online course with Eldor together, with Eldor, I think both of us being, like solid 7.5 in writing, like if we can put our heads together, I think we can make these essays like band 8 or 8.5. So and I think we're doing that with these essays. I think these might qualify as band 8. But again, I'm not the examiner.
Yes. So I usually say, like, I can say this, for example, I have consistently got 7.5 in my writing, so I can say that this is better than what I would produce. So
in the real exam, yeah. So that's why I'm trying to be like, the safest, better than 7.5 is 8. But sometimes I get surprised, like I think in my head I do better in the exam like than my average writing, and still get 7.5. So it might. That's why I was saying like maybe that's 7.5 or 8, but leaning more towards 8, I think. All right. So let's see. Which task should we write first? Task 1 or task 2? I usually go with task 1. Doesn't really matter. Just with the easiest one, I think. Like if you have a very complex task 1 and easy task 2 question, then go with the task 2. It just depends on the questions. Ilbek added Akbar to the group. I hope Akbar is the guy who paid for this course. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair to other students. So we need to maybe make sure that members cannot really add other members or other people, invite other people to the group. How can we do that? Because that looks suspicious to me. He's just adding his friend. Like, all right, like, look here, we have a paid lesson here, and why don't you go ahead and enjoy it too? Just for the sake of your other course mates, just, it wouldn't be really fair. Can you teach us all question types in task 1 and task 2? I think that's what we're doing, like trying to teach all types of task 1 and task 2, because we have about like 6 types of task 1 and 5 types of task 2. We already looked at agree-disagree questions in the first lesson, basically the second lesson, but first lesson for task 2. So we'll have 6 lessons for task 1 and 6 lessons for task 2. That's the plan. And I think we're going to manage to look at all types of questions. Yeah, Alisher is here as well, but he kind of joined as a student, and he kind of preferred to remain as a student. I actually invited him to be a writing tutor, but he was like, it's okay. I don't want to get involved with the check. He thought that being a tutor would be a lot of like involving assessing essays, but yeah, like 2 people I think is okay. We're trying to have a lot of arguments, but if we have the third person, then I think we would have a lot of disagreements, and we wouldn't be able to finish the essay on time.
Yeah.
I think doesn't really matter though, but and plus I've worked with Eldar closely. I know him in person, and it's easier for me to agree or disagree with him than the person that I never met before. So yeah, but like I said in the first lesson, Alisher is a great guy. He's a great IELTS instructor too. He's been participating in almost all of my marathons, like online courses, both in reading and writing. So I still see him as a fellow instructor, but he just wanted to be a student this time. He just wanted to just learn different styles of writing, I think. So I wouldn't really bother him unless he wanted to be part of this. Okay, so we have 4 and 5. So we are saying, as you're teaching 4 or 7, counted as 1 lesson or 2? It's counted as 1 lesson. So I just had to divide the sessions into 2 because of this, this many students. So we had to have because originally we wanted to do the lessons over the Zoom, so we thought 100 is the upper limit, and then we had some problems in the first lesson. But now 4 and 7, we're still doing it separately, and we have about I think fewer number of students now, right? Like how many students do we have here for this session? Because for some reason I can't really see the number.
If you stop sharing the screen, then you can see.
Oh, okay. So no, it's counted as just 1 lesson. So we'll have 12 sessions, but those sessions we'll have it 4 and 7 separately, but we would still have 12 overall. We have 20 for now. Okay, yeah. So not many people are really watching them live. So, but it doesn't really matter. Some people prefer to watch the recorded version, maybe. So maybe I can just stop the recording because we were kind of done with the lesson. So I can stop the recording.